Stocks trade soft with midcaps bearing the brunt today as China and Russia wade into the Gaza conflict. Real estate as well as industrials lead the decline. Financials fare better in trade.
RBI approves the appointment of Ashok Vaswani, a tech-savvy former Citi and Barclays banker, for a period of 3 years. The move is a surprise for the street, which expected an internal candidate to take charge. Ashok's technology-focused global exposure is likely to have tilted the scales in his favor.
BSE ups transaction charges on the weekly contract for the Sensex in a bid to make the business viable for the stock exchange and partially bridge the steep discount to peer NSE.
And Amber Enterprises slides on failing to turn profitable, and Laurus Labs sinks on missing expectations, but Credit Axis Grameen leaps on revising up its guidance, and Ipca Laboratories gets a boost from a US FDA clean chit for its unit after a hiatus.
Hello and welcome. You've tuned into Business Lunch this Monday afternoon, and we are starting with festive spirit in our studios today. Pavitra, it's not just the two of us and our anchors, but the entire team. The newsroom is looking so colorful, and we are really bringing in the festivities. So good luck and good wishes for the festivities to all our viewers. Let's now shift to business then. We'll take a look at where Nifty 50 is. It is a weekday of trade for the markets today, and with several factors, the pressure points that have been building on the market, that really is something that the bulls have given way to. So today in the grip of more of bears, 0.5% down on Nifty 50, 19,440 odd levels. Remember, this is a level about 100 points below the highest point in the trading session. So at the moment at lunch hour, definitely there is sluggishness, 0.5% down there on Nifty. Sensex 2 down about 230 odd points. Bank Nifty is the one which is also weak in trade, 100 points down on that particular index, and it's the mid-cap universe. That's where the maximum damage is really coming in. The mid-caps 1.8% down in trade, so complete bloodbath when we talk about that particular area, and the others also showing weakness in different pockets. ICICI Bank is one strong leader in the market with gains of 0.8% in trade, and there's only a handful of gainers really coming in the market for Nifty 50, and LTI Mindtree along with some of the Adani counters in terms of percentage are the biggest laggards at the moment. Advanced decline ratio heavily in favor of the decline, so there is weakness in the market. Of course, it's going to be a truncated week for trade this week, Pavitra.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe ahead of that, people also don't want to, take any of these very high bets, because there is also that global uncertainty, and this is a global sell-off that we're seeing. I mean, across markets, whether you look at Taiwan, Shanghai, all of them sharply lower. In fact, the advanced decline is 1:8. The mid-cap index is down 3% from the highs of the day. The small caps also have seen an over 2.7% kind of decline. So there's a lot of, pain that you're seeing in that pocket. I just want to run through some of the, stocks which are having it really bad today. Names like Amber, Laurus, both of them sharply lower after their earnings came through. Tata Communication extending the losses that we saw on Friday. Something like an RBL also being punished in trade. So all of these stocks under pressure. The entire metals pack is tanking in trade. Real estate also, after the run-up that we saw, is today under very significant pressure. Not just today, I mean, it has been for the past few sessions as well. What's also seeing some cuts? You have LTI, Mindtree, Wipro, TCS. These are the ones which have come under pressure in the past few minutes. So a lot from the tech pack over there, and a few stocks which are holding up in the green, names like something like a BSE, Credit Axis, Grameen, but they're few and far in between. So that's the shape of the market. There's lots to discuss, but like we were telling you, the key spotlight this afternoon is on two of the big banks, because earnings did come through over the weekend. I'm talking about ICICI Bank and Kotak Mahindra, of course. So my colleague Abhishek is here with the highlights of how this quarter really looked for them. Abhishek.
Well, Pavitra, for ICICI Bank, records have galloped in Q2 FY24. All-time high quarterly ROA of 2.41% and ROE of about 19.1%. You take a look at the subsidiaries quarterly PAT, ICICI Pru, ICICI Sec and ICICI Home have had all-time high in terms of quarterly profits in Q2 FY24. And that has helped the subsidiaries also to report the highest ever quarterly profit. Gross NPA ratio and net NPA ratio are one of the lowest in last 9 9 years or even more at about 2.48% and 0.43% respectively. So deposit growth of 18.8% YOY is perhaps the best in last 10 quarters, and loan growth of about 5% sequentially is perhaps the best that you are seeing in last 6 quarters. Overseas book, the net interest margin over there came in at 1.56%. Now this is the highest net interest margin in overseas lending business that they have in last 7 years or 28 quarters. Unsecured book that continues to rise, and it is at about 20.75% of the total loans, which is the highest ever that they have seen in last 24 quarters or even more. And this has helped the net interest margin as well. 11-quarter low in terms of various stress like restructured book at just 0.32% and annualized slippage ratio of 1.69%. On the flip side, the CASA ratio at 40.75% versus 43.3% is perhaps one of the lowest that you are seeing in last 35 quarters, and CASA per branch that I've calculated is the lowest in last 9 quarters also. For Kotak Mahindra Bank, there is a new MD and CEO appointment that has been announced, Mr. Ashok Vaswani, for 3 years effective 1st of Jan 2024. Now, what has worked in their Q2 result is that the deposit growth is robust at about 23.3% YOY, one of the best growth that you are seeing in last 20 quarters, and about 3.8% quarter-on-quarter. Loan growth YOY 18.45% is perhaps the best growth in last 3 quarters, and sequential loan growth of 6% is perhaps the best that you are seeing in last 6 quarters as well. Asset quality, they continue to improve. Both the gross NPA ratio and the net NPA ratio have improved sequentially. Subsidiaries quarterly PAT at about 1,232 crore is the highest ever. Now, what has not worked is that the liabilities that they have garnered or the deposit momentum that they have taken has come in at a huge cost. So the net interest margin has actually declined higher than estimated by Street. Street was working with a 15 basis point decline, but it has declined by 35 basis point. Slippages have increased. Annualized slippage ratio of 1.5% is perhaps the highest in last 5 quarters. And like peers, CASA ratio continues to come down for Kotak Mahindra Bank as well, is the lowest in last 23 quarters at 48.3%. Operating profits, now that disappointed on the negative side. It has declined by 6.9% quarter-on-quarter, perhaps the first time it's declining in last 5 quarters. In terms of our poll, both the NI and PAT is ahead of our poll. Back to you.
All right, Abhishek, quite an exhaustive analysis of the results coming in from the top banks, and ICICI Bank is gaining in trade while Kotak Mahindra Bank is down over 1%. Only HDFC Bank and ICICI Bank are in the green, remember, from the banking space in Nifty 50. In fact, staying with the banking sector and with Kotak Mahindra Bank, Abhishek also alluded to a big development there when it comes to the top brass, and RBI approves the appointment of Ashok Vaswani as the new MD and CEO of Kotak Mahindra Bank, and he is expected to take charge on 1st of January 2024. So leadership change from the beginning of next year, new year. Ritu Singh is right here to give us all the details. Ritu, tell us what could be on top of the agenda of the new management and the top MD and CEO of Kotak Mahindra Bank.
Well, those are some big shoes to fill. You've had Uday Kotak running Kotak Mahindra Bank since its inception, one of the founder CEOs with a lot of skin in the game. And now I think the big talking point for the street has been that Ashok Vaswani, who has been named the new MD and CEO, rather approved by RBI for a 3-year period, is an external name. Now, what that will, sort of imply for the bank, its leadership, its strategies going ahead is what the street is going to be focusing on. Ashok Vaswani himself brings with him plenty of experience in the banking space. For instance, most recently he was the CEO of Barclays UK, prior to which he was also with Citigroup Asia Pacific as the CEO. He was also a member of the Global Operations and Management Committee team at Citigroup. And as Uday Kotak called him, a global Indian and a ghar wapasi of sorts, with him returning to work in India for Kotak Mahindra Bank. In terms of what the street has made of it, largely if you see, the concerns are around if there will be any influx in the senior leadership with an external member coming in. So Bernstein, for instance, says that this change was expected, but the external candidate is a bit of a surprise. What kind of changes in strategy he brings about, the street will watch out for. And if there will be any delays in decision making, because remember, a continuance with internal members is seen favorably because the continued strategy would go ahead even with the new CEO. Now with an external member, how things evolve, We'll have to see. Nomura, for instance, says they'll also watch out for any strategic shifts in the bank strategy. And Macquarie believes, whether he will adopt to an Indian banking environment system after working for the larger part of his career overseas are some of the things that the street will be watching out for. But the big, announcement, of course, is with the new CEO coming in, any uncertainty about the leadership transition goes away.
All right, Ritu, thanks a lot for getting us all of the details on this very important development. Kotak Bank, by the way, is off the day's low quite significantly, around 1.8% from the lows of the day. But with that, it is time for a short break. When we return, protests in poll-bound Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh over ticket distributions. We're going to bring you all of the details, so stay tuned for that important story. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Business Lunch, and let's now bring you some action on the political front. Ahead of the state elections in November, Congress and BJP workers in both Madhya Pradesh as well as the BJP cadre in Rajasthan protest over ticket distribution in the states. My colleague Sandhya is joining us now to bring us up to speed with the latest. Sandhya.
See, both Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh are going to polls next month, and the counting will happen on 3rd. And party cadre, especially in MP, whether it's Congress or BJP, party workers are angry over ticket distribution. Let's talk about Madhya Pradesh first. In BJP, whether it's Jyotiraditya Scindia or Bhupendra Yadav himself or VD Sharma, all of them, they witnessed they had to face angry protesters, angry party workers. The party workers felt that their local representatives were ignored while issuing the tickets. In fact, a fight happened right in front of Union Minister Bhupendra Yadav in his presence. In fact, he also was mobbed. His security team was attacked. Police has arrested 3 people. Now, talking about Congress here, in Madhya Pradesh, whether it's Kamal Nath or Digvijay Singh, both they had to face similar protests. Digvijay Singh's effigy was burned by Congress party workers in Bhopal, right outside the party office, and Kamal Nath's residence there were protesters outside Kamal Nath's residence in Bhopal and Shujapur as well. Now, Rajasthan is slightly different. In Rajasthan, you can see that protests are majorly happening, and it's mostly the BJP party workers who are angry, who are upset, because as far as Congress is concerned in Rajasthan, with all the names they have declared for the candidates, for the seats, they have chosen the sitting MLAs again. So there is not much or significant anger among Congress party workers, but BJP has a very different BJP is going through a different phase altogether. Especially the MPs are facing anger. Rajyavardhan Rathod, the MP who is contesting elections from Jaipur Jhontwada, he is facing angry protesters, supporters of the local representatives. And not just him, in fact, Devji Patel, who again, another MP, got a ticket from Sanchor. He also is facing angry protesters. If we talk about BJP party workers, at multiple locations in Rajasthan, they have attacked and vandalized BJP office as well. That's the magnitude of anger. Another thing which they are angry about in Rajasthan, the BJP workers are angry about, that it's the center people, the central leadership is taking all the calls and the local people are being ignored. In fact, Vasundhara Rajya loyalists were also angry for a long period of time, till the time the new list was released and they got their desired seats. There was anger on that front as well. But as of now, BJP party workers continue to stage these protests against their own party.
All right, Sandhya, thanks so much for getting us this very important information coming in on Eyes on the Political Developments. A quick look at the market. Well, it's the mid-cap universe which is really weakening further, more than 2% down in that particular index. And some of the PSU banks and especially mid-cap banks, they are the ones taking the maximum brunt. So keep an eye out on the financials in the mid-cap space, which is taking down the mid-cap universe. With that, we'll slip into a short breather on Business Lunch. When we return, convoys of humanitarian aid begin to trickle into Gaza over the weekend. More details on that conflict coming up next. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch. Now let's get you the latest update that's coming in from the conflict in West Asia. Well, Israeli forces continue to launch airstrike on the Gaza Strip ahead of the widely expected ground offensive. Now, over 4,700 people have been killed in the Gaza Strip and West Bank, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health. And around 1,400 people have been killed in Israel. Now, Sky News' Deborah Hines has more details on the ongoing conflict.
Well, a lot of it's coming from the sky. You've had more airstrikes overnight into Gaza against Hamas targets there, but also the Israelis striking against Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. And that's the real concern here. As Israel continues to execute what it says is its goal to annihilate, in its words, Hamas following the October the 7th attacks here in Israel, the fear really is of the regional implications. You're already seeing fresh increased violence in the West Bank. You're seeing clashes across Israel's border with Lebanon, where Iranian-backed Hezbollah militants are increasing their attacks. There's been reports in the Syrian media of Israeli military strikes against targets in Aleppo, the airport there, and also in Damascus. We know that that Syria has a close relationship as well with Hezbollah, as well with Iran, and all eyes too are on what exactly Iran intends to do. It's been making very clear that it will be forced to respond should Israel continue its attacks in Gaza. And for the United States, very clear signals that they are incredibly worried about the risk for regional conflict, with 2 carrier strike groups now in the region, and the US also increasing its stockpiles of air defense systems here too. The one certainty, though, is on the Israeli side, they are not going to be looking for a ceasefire as long as there is still a threat from Hamas.
All right, that is the latest on where things stand. Now, as aid begins to flow into Gaza from several different countries, yesterday India's External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bagchi announced on Twitter that an Indian Air Force C-17 flight carrying nearly 6.5 tons of medical aid and 32 tons of disaster relief material departed for the El Arish airport in Egypt, which is roughly 45 kilometers away from the Rafah crossing.
In fact, staying with this particular conflict, well, Israel's president told Sky News that Hamas is responsible for the destruction of electricity and water supply in the Gaza Strip. Now, he adds that aid that was to be sent into Gaza was hijacked by Hamas. Listen in.
It was Hamas missiles which broke down the electricity infrastructure in Gaza. Nothing to do with us. Water, we supply only 7% of the water. It's Hamas operation. There is fuel for the humanitarian need. It's under UNRWA. We are following very closely the humanitarian situation on the hour. Most of Gaza is functioning. There are areas that are under battle. This is a real tragedy, but how does the world want... How does the world cope?
We can't say Gaza's functioning.
How does the world cope? First of all, a lot of distorted information comes out of Gaza.
No, but we do have a team on the ground
so
who we do trust, and we can't say that Gaza is a functioning territory.
But the problem is, of course, that part of the infrastructure and part of the aid is hijacked by Hamas. That's the issue. Guys, it's very easy to blame Israel. Let's just remember where we were, what happened, and how do we have the right to defend ourselves when a missile that flies 250 kilometers straight into Israel comes from people's living room? That's the situation we're faced with. No other nation is faced with that. And had any nation been faced with that, believe me, they would have attacked the same.
All right, that is Israel's president in conversation with Sky News. But meanwhile, as the risk of conflict also, escalating into a wider region is a possibility, hear out what Iran's foreign minister had to say. This is a warning that he issued to the United States as well as Israel. Listen in.
I'd like to warn the United States of America and its regional proxy, the fake regime of Israel, that if they don't immediately halt crimes against humanity and ethnic cleansing in Gaza, anything would be possible at any moment, and the region will get out of control.
All right, back home, Pavitra, we have more things to cheer about along with the festivities. That's the World Cup and India's stupendous victory against New Zealand. So cheers for the World Cup team and goodbye from the entire team of Business Lunch. Thanks so much.